Ross Chastain and AJ Allmendinger were the big story, but they weren't the only story. Here's the other stories coming up next. What is going on, everybody? If I haven't earned your subscription, hopefully today is the day I will earn that subscription. Of course, Ross Chastain won this race. He tangled with AJ Allmendinger. I made a video specifically about that earlier, so if you want to hear about that story, check that video out. But let's just run through the finishing order because there are so many good stories that also happen in this event, and I don't want to miss out on those because there was so much to talk about in this race. So Ross Chastain wins his first Cup Series win. And of course, Alex Bowman finished second, almost backed up into another win or stole another win, however you want to look at it, if it hadn't been for the spinning AJ Allmendinger that made him go off course. Christopher Bell, I think for the first time this season, finished on the lead lap, and he got a third, so he might have saved his season. And I clearly heard my video, and he drove a lot better this race. Just kidding. Chase Elliott had a solid day. Not the typical Chase Elliott performance we expect at a road course, but he got fourth. Tyler Reddick was fifth, and let's not forget, he almost won this race. If Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, and Kurt Busch hadn't got together in the sand pit, Tyler Reddick had the lead, and he could have ran away and stole this race. So Tyler Reddick drove an absolutely phenomenal race. He didn't have the speed of the other guys. But let's not forget about Tyler Reddick because he drove a heck of a race. Ryan Blaney carrying the flag for Ford here. He was probably the only Ford driver that wasn't bottoming out. I don't know what was going on with the Fords. I don't know if they played around with ride height. They looked like they had a lower ride height, or if they were playing around with air pressure in the tires. But they had some type of ride height issue because they were bottoming out and unloading the cars. Truex finished seventh. Nice solid run for him. He was up there all day. Austin Cendrick finished eighth. Austin Cendrick had a really fast car, but he again was one of those Fords with a ride height issue. But he definitely was really fast if it hadn't been for that. Erik Jones was ninth. He come from the absolute brink of disaster. Erik Jones looked like he lost power and was going to have to retire, but they somehow got the car fired back up and running, and he recovers for a ninth place finish. Austin Dillon 10th out of absolutely nowhere. Kevin Harvick, another solid Kevin Harvick type day. They just kept chipping away, working on the car. He gets him an 11th place finish. William Byron did not have the speed of the other Hendrick cars. He was never a real threat in this race, but he comes home 12th, made the best out of a bad situation. Michael McDowell, great finish for that group. Michael McDowell, a heck of a road course racer. Nice 13th for him. Brad Keselowski, another interesting day for him. He added some more bodies to the list there. Justin Haley with a solid top 15. Good points day for him. Okay, now let's look at the back of the field at some guys who had sort of a bad day. Finishing 39th, Andy Lally. He never even got going. They made a few laps and then parked it. Some type of mechanical issue. Bubba Wallace lost a wheel. He finished 38th. Booty Barker will be suspended for 4 races, along with, probably a crew member, however that works. Whatever NASCAR is doing these days. 37th was Stenhouse. He broke a drive shaft. Corey LaJoie lost power. Joey Hand also lost power. Loris Hesmans also lost power. And that is something we did not talk about, but I thought was very interesting. A lot of mechanical failures in this race, and I thought that there would be. There weren't quite as many to the big-name drivers. Ricky Stenhouse, of course, a big-name driver. But the other, just because it didn't happen to big-name drivers, I still don't think this is a non-issue. There were a lot of people, because of the Texas heat, a lot of these cars, I think, overheated and their engines expired, the drivetrains expired. Don't forget, these transaxles get very hot. You've got to cool them down. So I think that is an issue going forward that some of these teams will have to look at. Of course, at the very beginning of the race, all of the Hendrick cars were running hot. So I don't think it can be discounted that the Texas heat and the heat on these systems is something that needs to be addressed going forward. But okay, let's look at a few more drivers. Denny Hamlin finished 18th, and he won his first stage of the year. Boris said in his big comeback or whatever, finished 26th. And that is actually impressive considering that he made like 75 pass-through penalties for cutting the S's. He was getting really frustrated. If you heard some of the in-car. Daniel Suarez finished 24th. It was an up-and-down race for him. He won the first stage. He led 15 laps, but then he got spun out, and then He actually had recovered to about 8th place, and then something else happened. He had to make another unscheduled pit stop, and he ended up 24th. But with the stage points, it'll end up more like a 14th place finish. But the other Trackhouse car was really good here, and if you put his laps led with Ross Chastain's laps led, they led the vast majority of this race. So a very strong performance from Trackhouse. And of course, AJ Allmendinger ends up 33rd, I think, and he had a good car. Collick had a great car, great race, but, you know, just didn't go his way. He did the bump and run and got bumped back, and that's just sometimes the way it goes. But he did take home that Xfinity Series trophy, so he didn't go home empty-handed. So it was a mixed bag for him as well. All right, that is all I've got for you. These were the other stories from COTA. Of course, not as big as the Allmendinger versus Chastain deal, but if you like the content, feel free to subscribe down below. If you got a comment, leave it down in the comment section. Is there somebody I missed? Is there a story I missed here? And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.